The Rams' odds to win the Super Bowl in 2025 are...
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, the last team from the NFC to win the Super Bowl. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And I've been covering LA sports over a decade, SI 24/7 Sports, Dodgers Nation, on the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He just finished his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And today we've got a jam-packed show for you. 5 things the Rams can learn from the 49ers loss in the Super Bowl. Also, we got the Super Bowl odds for the Rams next season, where they land in the power rankings. We're going to get into that. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, Travis, we're going to get right into it. So we're still talking about the Super Bowl. You got 49ers fans breaking their televisions. I don't know why they are doing that. I mean, TVs have families. They're going to have to get new Visios and insignias. But come on, we were just talking about how much we love television. Can you believe that?
It's something I will never be able to wrap my head around. The idea that something bad happened to your team, therefore you smash your own belongings. It's something I can't wrap my head around.
I mean, thankfully, TV's a little more affordable these days, but no, I mean, those TVs have families, not cool. I hate that. Also, our boy, Aaron Donald, on his Instagram story, he posted a picture of him flashing that Super Bowl 56 ring, a little bit of a troll to the San Francisco 49ers, a little bit of a, hey, I'll show you mine if you show me your weight, right? So shout out to Aaron Donald for that. And I know you love your memes too. And look, 49ers fans, they're getting hard from Rams fans out there on the memes. They're just not letting it stop. They're trolling and hard. And so got some good memes out there. They got the Mount Crymore is complete. I don't know if you saw this. The Mount Crymore has all the Debo Samuels crying.
Oh, I like
the
that.
NFC Championship and the 3 losses.
I like that.
Got the Homer Simpson sleeping, sleeping. Me sleeping, knowing that Debo Samuel's crying in his hotel room. I mean, the Rams fans are just relentless. I like this one. You must be a sick person if you enjoyed watching the 49ers lose the Super Bowl and look at Rams tapes posted. You must be a sick person. I mean, it's just I just appreciate the pettiness.
It's good. Look, this is what makes it fun, right? If it doesn't bother you a little bit when the team that you're going up against wins, then there's something wrong, and you should probably take a little bit of pleasure when they lose, right? That the Rams are competing with the 49ers. Like you said at the top of the show, they're the last NFC team to win the Super Bowl, and they could take a little something in that. I know that the Niners have had their number a little bit of late, but we'll take something in that, right?
For sure, 100%. Look, the reality is the Rams, they've won more Super Bowls in the last 30 years than the San Francisco 49ers. Last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl, Disney Plus was VHS tapes, right? You had to have those nice collection of VHSs. I had Aladdin back in the day. That was mine, But look, I mean, when it comes to Super Bowl, that's the focus right now. And the Rams, according to FanDuel, by the way, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon for sure if you want to place a bet. They're a plus 3,000 to win it all next season. So, of course, you already know out there, but you place $100, you'd win 3,000 if the Rams hoist that Lombardi trophy. They're tied with the Chargers, Jets, and Jaguars. I think that, look, before free agency, before any trades, before the draft, I think that's a fair placement for the Rams are at.
You know, it's funny, D-Mac. So I've made it a vow to myself, and I'm going to try to hold myself to it, and I'm almost certain I will fail. However, at least for today, I'm going to get it right. Nobody knows anything, right? Think about what we were talking about with this team at the end of last season. Think about what we were talking about coming into the beginning of next season. Thinking about what we were talking about 9 weeks into the 2023 season with this Rams when they were 3-6, and it looked like, hey, is there any way to get to the top of the draft board? They went to the playoffs. They won 10 games. They probably had as good of a team at the end of the line as just about any of the other top 3 or 4 teams in the entire league. So 30-1, sure. 10-1, sure. 3,000-1, sure. I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. They still need to draft. They still need to go through free agency. We know the Rams are one of the more active teams at the trade market. I know this. I'm more optimistic about this team going into next season than I was last year. I know that you had a couple of breakout guys in Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, that there's a handful of guys that we weren't talking about a year ago that we will be talking about. You know that Matthew Stafford is still at a high level. It looks like Sean McVay has been re-energized, that it's an incredibly good time to be a Rams fan. But if I tell you, oh, they're better than this team or that, it's weird that they're on the same level as Jacksonville, but who knows anything at this point of the season?
And that's why the streets love the people's champ, because you drop truth bombs, you keep it a buck. And the truth is that look at the Seattle Seahawks odds, right? They're at a plus 7,500. Look at the momentum they had heading into the past season. And where did they land, right? You just never know. That is the reality. But the good thing for the Rams, though, is that they do have momentum heading into this season. They do have those core pieces intact in Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, and Cooper Kupp. Yes, Donald and Stafford look like they're in a better place than Cooper Kupp, but you found all that emerging talent in Puka Nacua. I can say his name 1,000 times a day, right? And then you also have Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and you got the first-round pick. You've got over $27 million in cap space. And they're not going to go out there and spend all that cap space the first day the free agency hits, but you have more in your war chest to put together a team that could win the Super Bowl. And then that brings me to the power rankings, because the power rankings are pretty similar to the odds, really. If you look at ESPN's power rankings, the Rams, they're at number 12, and that's behind the Packers and the Browns. So, yeah, lots of reasons to be optimistic about this Rams team, and I like where they're at. I like them at 12 with the ability to just kind of inch up there. I was afraid it would be a little too overhyped after the season that they had.
12 sounds about right to me, right? Because the Packers and the Browns, okay, I think the Rams are a better team than the Packers because they have a better quarterback, because I think they have a better wide receiving core. And, you know, the offensive line obviously needs to probably be, you know, just kind of maybe massaged a little bit along the way. Cleveland feels about right with that great defense. But I like what you said, D-Mac. The idea of this team coming in, let's not go from where we thought it was going to be a year ago to, oh, they're going to win the division or they're one of the 3 or 4 best teams. Probably not, but they're also not in the middle of the pack. 12 is in the, you know, roughly the top third, give or take. And that feels about where this team's supposed to be. I have a full expectation they'll make the playoffs. I have a full expectation that they're going to compete like crazy for free agents, that they're going to be aggressive in the draft. But that feels about right. The top third of teams, I think, is where the Rams land as of February 13th as we're recording this.
No doubt about it. And before anyone gets upset, because I see some fans, Rams should be in top 10. Rams should be in top 10 the power rankings, right? Before anyone gets upset, even in the slightest, just know you have to take power rankings in general with a grain of salt the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. And to make you feel any better, if you look at the preseason ESPN power rankings for the 2023 season, the Rams were 27th and the Houston Texans were 31st. That's all you need to know, right?
Go back to what I said 5 minutes ago. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows who the draft guy that's going to pop is. Nobody knows who the draft guy who's going to bust is. Nobody knows who we think is going to be a star that takes a major step back. Nobody knows that guy that's about to take a major step forward. You just don't know. That's why, you know, what they say, the NFL season starts around Thanksgiving. That's when it feels like you got a pretty good idea of what everybody is. It's fun to get fired up for it as we get closer to it. But as far as trying to predict the future, good luck with that.
We don't know that, but we do know that the last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl, One Sweet Day by Mariah Carey was the number 1 song in the country. It was a sweet day for Rams fans. We're going to talk about what the Rams can learn from the 49ers loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, D-Mac, let's talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members, including me, right? It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. How about this? I think we can all figure this out. You pick more or less than the statistical projection on 2 to 6 players, and you watch the winnings roll in, right? And right now, it's demon time on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at PrizePicks, right? Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use that same code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Think of being a Locked On Rams, your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a reminder, if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Join the party. We're almost at 12,000 thanks to you. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button. Also, drop your questions for this week's mailbag episode, which will be later in the week, either Thursday or Friday. But if you drop a question, it will be featured on a future episode of Locked On Rams. And also a special shout out to our everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you rocking with us every single day, win or lose, off season or during the season. Yeah, we got to thank you guys enough. You can join the Everyday Listeners Club too. Join the club. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, we're going to talk a little more about the Super Bowl. I was going to tie a bow on it, maybe just move on, but after I learned what the San Francisco 49ers and their lack of preparation for the overtime, and you compare that to the Chiefs' preparation, got me thinking, what can we learn from the 49ers' loss? And how about this? Let's just get to basis. Know the rules of overtime, okay? Know the rules of overtime. Patrick Mahomes said after the game that the Chiefs, they went over the post-size and overtime rules so many times, they were sick of hearing about it. They did it during preseason. Chris Jones talked about how they've been talking about it for weeks, and that if they won the toss, they're going to give the ball to the 49ers, and if they scored, they're going to go for 2 to end the game, and that they rehearsed it. You compare that to the 49ers, Eric Armstead, this is absolutely inexcusable and embarrassing. He said that he learned the details of the postseason rule from the Jumbotron at Allegiant Stadium. Right. So know the rules, Travis.
So, all right. So there's 2 options here, right? Talked about this on my radio show all day yesterday. Either Kyle Shanahan didn't know the rules either, which I'm willing to entertain, or he did know the rules and just never mentioned it to his team. Which of those 2 is worse? I don't know. They're both awful. Neither one of those are a great option because, like you just said, I think it's the most important part of what happened at the Super Bowl on Sunday was the 49er players had no idea that there were different rules, which means it had never been brought up in a meeting. You got 2 weeks, right? What's one of the few complaints we have about the NFL season? It's that the 2 weeks from the championship games to the Super Bowl, it's too long. There's too much time. We kind of lose whatever momentum we might, blah, 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 right? You don't want to take a day, an hour out of one day to say, hey, fellas, let's go over these overtime rules. I know it's probably not going to happen, but here's what it is. Here's our strategy. Here's how we're going to approach it. Here's why we're going to take the ball second, which they should have done and didn't. Or here's why we're going to take the ball first, which they did do and was a bad idea. You never went over it with your team. That's actually worse than not knowing the rules at all, which, by the way, that's kind of where I land. I'm not so sure Kyle Shanahan knew. Now, no one's ever going to come out and say, oh, he didn't know. He's not going to admit he didn't know. But their actions and their players' words certainly demonstrate that nobody in that building, nobody in that sideline, nobody getting ready for that knew that the rules were all that different. Look, I'll be honest. I didn't know. And I'm not the coach of the 49ers. I thought that the overtime rules were kind of the same, that if you score a touchdown, that's it. If it's a field goal, the other team gets it back. I had not processed it. I didn't know either, but it's not my job to get my team ready to go in that moment that they didn't know that, whether the head coach didn't know or the players admit that they didn't know. That is a massive failure on an organizational level. It is inexcusable that your players did not know that you're playing under a different format in the most important game of their lives.
Absolutely 100%. I mean, that's managerial malpractice right there.
Yes.
Kyle Juszczyk said after the game, I guess that's not the case. I don't really know the strategy. So it sounds like they did not go over
Neither
it.
did your
I
head
think you're
coach,
right.
Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, he probably did, but Kyle Shanahan probably did. But like the bottom line is they didn't go over it with the players, and it was the difference in the game. The Chiefs, if they won the toss, they would have still deferred to the 49ers. They would have gotten the ball first anyway. And if the 49ers scored a touchdown, the Chiefs, they were going to go for 2 to win the game. It was the difference in the game. And I hear 49ers fans, they're crying, right? They're talking about, oh, it was the mushy field at UNLV. It was the Taylor Swift dark magic. Oh, they were holding all game long. How could you make those excuses when you didn't know the damn rules in overtime? And to your point, a lot of people didn't know the rules. I was at a Super Bowl party, and when overtime started, this guy who thought he was like the smartest football fan ever explained the old overtime rules. And then that thing, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I know the new rules. I'm not going to, this guy's on a roll. Let's let him do it, right? Then the new rules kind of flash on the screen. He's like, oh, I guess they must have changed it. I was like, come on, man. Like, but so know the rules.
Know the rules, yes. And here's the thing. Do I think that it cost them the game? Probably not, because Patrick Mahomes is on the other team. But that's the whole point, right? You have the best player on the planet, and you just gave him an advantage? I mean, that's like giving Tiger Woods 2 strokes aside. He doesn't need your help. He's probably going to beat you anyway. Don't give him the slight advantage of going second. Don't give him the advantage of his teammates knowing what the goal is, knowing what the rules is. It was a disaster for the 49ers because the 49ers played well. The 49ers had a good game. It's just that the best guy in the world was the best guy in the world on the most important 2 drives of the season. And you gave him this much help along the way.
Yep.
It's a disaster.
100%. I mean, they didn't just play well. They dominated. They dominated on both sides of the ball. But unfortunately, their best players, CMC, a future Hall of Famer, he fumbles. Trent Williams, multiple false starts. I mean, if you're a 49ers fan out there, you're saying, okay, there's no one I would want in those roles than those guys. Unfortunately, they weren't able to come through. But you said it best. The best player on the field, possibly the best player that we'll ever see hold the pigskin, is someone that they gave too much time to, that they gave the opportunity to go in 4-down territory to win that game. And you knew that when Jake Moody went on the field to kick that field goal, the game was over. My only criticism, talking about the TV breaking from the 49ers fans, why did you wait until the game-winning touchdown to break your TVs? You should have broke your TV as soon as that field goal went through the uprights with Jake Moody. That's when the game ended.
Yes.
Right.
Look,
so second thing.
Here's the other thing, like the field goal at the end of overtime, right? Had they made the extra point, had Moody's PAT not gotten blocked? Okay, I get it. Do we really think that Mahomes wouldn't have scored a touchdown at the end if he had to have the touchdown? They got down to the 9-yard line. They would have had 2 more shots at the end zone anyway. You gave Patrick Mahomes life at the end of overtime, at the end of regulation, and he ripped your guts out. Don't give him, it's like the movie, right? You got to double tap the guy. You got to finish him off, because if you leave him bleeding on the floor, he's going to get up and come back to life. And that's what he did twice, and he'll do it again.
By the way, I love how that play was called Corn Dog, where McCole Hardman, and they ran it 2 years in a row to win the Super Bowl. Yep. But second thing the Rams can learn, and this is big, is blitz. Blitzing wins in the Super Bowl. I mean, the 49ers, that final drive of regulation, 3rd and 4, Trent McDuff, he blitzed on the left side. He had a free run at Brock Purdy. He had that pass deflection to force the 4th down. Overtime, the Chiefs, they went with the blitz again on 3rd and 4 on the 9-yard line. Chris Jones absolutely just blew up the play and forced Purdy into an overthrow. He throws it away. It goes, and it forces that field goal. Now, the Rams don't blitz a lot, but I think it's something to look at. And Spagnuolo, of course, we know that not a great head coach. We saw it with the Rams, but as a defensive coordinator, being aggressive in key situations, especially when the pressure is on, it's a good way to really end games. And, hey, you can go out swinging. That's what I like about it.
My buddy Keyshawn Johnson has a line that I steal all the time with regard to pressure bust pipes, right? That put pressure on the quarterback. You and I are baseball guys too. Put pressure on the pitcher. Make him go deep into counts. Have a running game that make people make decisions under duress. Make people make decisions in short periods of time. They're not going to make a bunch of good ones in a row. Patrick Mahomes might. Tom Brady might, Joe Montana might, there's a handful of guys that might, but if you have to make a series of high stress decisions, eventually you're going to make a bad one. Eventually it's not going to work. Eventually you're going to miss your target. Pressure busts pipes and pressure busts quarterbacks.
Absolutely. We said a couple months ago, I like my defenses like I like my shower heads. Lots of pressure, lots of coverage. Right now,
Exactly.
There's a reason why the Rams can't blitz as much, and there's a position need to address if they want to play a style of defense that has a little more heavy blitzing. We're going to tell you that coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It is basketball season, right? D-Mac and I talk a lot of baseball in this show. Obviously, we're talking a ton of Rams, but it is bad. Basketball has the floor right now. So get your buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Let me tell you that again, because that's too good to be true, right? $150 if your first bet wins. You can bet on all of your NBA or favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. And if you still got that little Jones for football, right, you can go see all of your futures bets at FanDuel. You can go see what D-Mac was just talking about a minute ago, your Super Bowl odds, even though we're still in February, just a couple of days beyond. Everything you need is right there at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Travis, we're going to get back to this list of the top 5 things the Rams can learn from the 49ers in their loss to the Chiefs. Number 3, cornerback play. They need to improve the secondary, and if you want to send the blitz and be a little more aggressive, you need those cornerbacks to defend these receivers. And the Chiefs, they absolutely did a fantastic job on Ayuk, on Deebo Samuel. He gets 3 catches on 11 targets. They were bumping him off their routes all day. You saw McDuffie get 3 pass breakups, and you saw the play against the potential touchdown to Deebo Samuel in the end zone. L'Jarius Sneed, he was fantastic. He was all over Brandon Ayuk. And I think I want to see the Rams improve the secondary, and it makes me think of, man, do I miss Jalen Ramsey.
Look, absolutely. Because to your point, if you're going to send pressure, you're going to leave guys alone a lot. And if guys are alone, the upside to pressure, if you're the quarterback, if you're Pat, send it all day long. I know where the soft spot is, and I'm going to beat it, and I can put the ball where it needs to be, especially if you don't have the right corners in the right places. You can take advantage right there. To your point, the Rams were able to play more pressure, at least theoretically, with a guy like Jalen Ramsey, because you knew that pass wasn't going to get completed. So you could cheat to one side of the field maybe a little bit more than another. Look, you need the personnel to do what we're talking about. I think that if we were looking at Ahkello Witherspoon, I think held up pretty well for the Rams over the course of the season. The rest of the secondary was hit and miss, and probably a little bit more miss than hit. I think that for me, that's where I'm going second. I think I still want to get more pressure on the quarterback if I'm the Rams defense, but I want to make sure that my guys can stand up in coverage, can stand up to that pressure. And right now, looking at what there is, looking at the guys that we expect to be back, I don't know if I love it as much, more of that bend, don't break philosophy, because I'm going to make you run a bunch of plays as opposed to trying to get you off the field quickly. I think they do need to upgrade that secondary.
They're going to absolutely have to hit on a cornerback if you go the Kool-Aid McKinstry route in the draft, if you try to hope for another reclamation project like an Ahkello Witherspoon. But Kobe Turner, he did regress a little bit last season. We saw Darian Kendrick have his issues, but that's going to be a major point of emphasis this offseason is upgrading that secondary. The next one, number 4, is obvious, and I know it's your favorite topic to talk about, and that's special teams. The special teams play for the Chiefs was outstanding. Harrison Butker made all 4 of his field goals, a Super Bowl record 57-yarder in the third quarter. Jake Moody made 3 field goals, 55-yard. That was a record, but he had that PAT block that kept the Chiefs within 3 points. He had the muff punt there that led to a big turnover. So, look, the Rams, if they're very serious about winning the Super Bowl next year, you have to get a legitimate field goal kicker that you can trust in a big spot.
Think about the 2 times the Rams have gone to the Super Bowl in the last, 7 years, right? The 2 guys that have been their kicker on both of those teams. You looked at Greg the Leg Zerline, right? Legatron, who I get is kind of boom and bust, but for the Rams, he was mostly boom. He was really good for the Rams. He kicked that long, I think it was a 58-yarder in the NFC Championship game that was a huge kick. They go to the Super Bowl having him as their weapon. Matt Gay speaks for himself. He was really good for the Rams for a long period of time. They're not easy to find. To your point, a Harrison Butker, Justin Tucker, or a Turner, I should say, like these guys that Tucker, I got it right the first time. That you got these guys that are very, very hard to find. They are expensive for what they do, but like you just laid out, D-Mac, think about it. Think about how often these games come down to one play on teams, one mistake on teams, just getting on the ball correctly, being able to make the ones you're supposed to make, the PATs. These guys made kicks you're probably not supposed to make, a bunch of 50-plus yarders along the way. But the Rams were playing with, one of their hands tied behind their back because anything beyond about 35 yards was a total crapshoot.
For sure. Absolutely. And then coming in last, and this one we feel really good about, is that Hall of Fame quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, they win Super Bowls. Mahomes gets you touchdowns. Purdy got you field goals. And the game, to me, it's still about that third quarter where they had the 3 and outs. You held the ball for just 3 minutes and 44 seconds. You had -2 net yards for Brock Purdy. And look, if you look at his numbers in the regular season, of course, the top 5 in a lot of categories. But is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? I think the answer is unequivocally no, right? Is he someone that can just take over a game like a Mahomes, like a Stafford, like a Brady did? I think the answer is no. And you should feel really good, Rams fans, because Stafford is coming off a resurgent season where he looks healthy and he still has gas left in that tank, and he's got another Super Bowl run in him.
Yeah, I do too. And we certainly know that he's good enough to be the guy to get you to where you want to go, because we've seen it and it's happened. Because if you don't have that guy, and this isn't me dumping on Purdy, I'm kind of in the middle on Purdy. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's, just barely holding on either. But if you're going to win a Super Bowl with somebody that's not a holy smoke guy, everything else needs to be perfect. Your defense needs to be perfect. Your special teams needs to be perfect, right? Jim McMahon, not a great quarterback, 85 Bears defense. You look at the Ravens in 2000. You look at the Bucks in the early 2000s. These were elite, arguably some of the best defenses ever to play in the NFL. So you can do it with a Trent Dilfer. You can do it with a Brad Johnson. But you literally need a historically good defense and special teams if you're going to try to do it with a league average quarterback.
For sure. And like you said, there's 15 teams, 20 teams out there that would probably love to have a Brock Purdy and that consistency. But with a great quarterback, sometimes it's just F it. We're going to win this football game. Okay, we're going to win this football game. I don't see that with him. I don't.
No, I don't either. And the Chiefs are the best example of this. Who's the best guy here? Oh, it's him. They win again and again and again.
100%. Like I said, I'm sleeping like Homer Simpson, knowing that we got Matthew Stafford as our QB1. But that's going to be this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And of course, you can follow the People Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, on the X at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.